Hey, so JFK said that those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. And we do need a peaceful revolution right now. And a peaceful revolution means a nonviolent revolution. And so I want to talk to you about nonviolence and the part that it plays in counteracting the very dangerous forces that are among us at the moment. I want to mention three sources of reading. One, anything from Gandhi, anything from Mahatma Gandhi, like a book of his, his saying, his quotes, etc. Also, this book I highly recommend. It's called Testament of Hope, and it is the collective teachings and writings and sayings of Martin Luther King Jr. The issue with this book, just open it anywhere, any speech, anything he wrote. And the other book that I would highly recommend is the autobiography of Malcolm X, and I'll tell you in a few minutes why that is. When I wrote my book, Healing the Soul of America, back in the late 90s, I was really interested in the idea of spirituality and politics. And when I began to do more research, reading up more on American history than I really ever had, I learned so much about things that had already been done. We don't have to reinvent any wheels here. Mahatma Gandhi had already articulated the theory of political nonviolence. Martin Luther King went to India, studied those principles. He brought them back for application to the struggle for civil rights in the 1960s. And I think you can look back at the 20th century and look at both Gandhi's movement, the Indian independence movement, as well as the civil rights movement in the United States, and recognize that both of those were the two most successful revolutions in the world in the 20th century, both of which were totally, for the most part, bloodless and nonviolent. The reason I mentioned Malcolm X as well is because Malcolm X, along with Martin Luther King and along with Gandhi, recognized that the political changes that we wish to see in the world must be fueled by spiritual changes within ourselves, and otherwise the life force won't be there. The kind of momentum, what Martin Luther King called cosmic companionship, will not be there. I want to take a moment and look back in American history in the arc of the major social justice movements in the United States. In the abolitionist movement, among white abolitionists, the entire movement emerged from the early evangelical churches in New Hampshire. Now, among black abolitionists, that was not necessarily true, but among the white abolitionists, these early evangelical churches in New Hampshire really mattered. In the women's suffragist movement, a lot of those women were religious Quakers. And their being religious Quakers, Quakerism is what had fueled the entire movement of women's suffrage because of the idea of the inner light. So that was the idea, and it is the idea at the center of the Quakers, an inner light within every man, woman, and child, which makes us equal because of our equality in God. Once again, look at the Declaration of Independence. These truths we hold to be self-evident, all men created equal. Now, Gandhi took those ideas, took not only those ideas, but also said he was very influenced by Thoreau. And he said that there is an inner light within every man, woman, and child that heals not only personal relationships, but also political, economic, and social relationships as well. Martin Luther King once said about Gandhi that he was the first person to take the ethic of love that Martin Luther King associated with Jesus, but Gandhi did not only associate with Jesus. He said, and turned it into a broad-scale social force for good. And then Malcolm X also talking about how the spiritual changes within us are absolutely required for the political changes that we want to bring about. So this idea of traditional politics and why traditional politics will not be enough to counter what is going on right now is because it's just treatment of symptoms. It's very shallow. It's only, above the waterline stuff. Many of you have probably heard me say in the last, few months, I think I've said a lot, pray in the morning, kick ass in the afternoon. Today I was talking to my friend Susan, and we were talking about that line, and she was talking about how you have to clear yourself and prepare your nervous system in order to do what we need to do right now because of so much that's happening that is an assault on the nervous system. But it's more than that. It goes deeper than just preparing your vessel. It goes into that sort of quantum realm, whatever you call it, whether you think of it in religious terms, spiritual terms, this quantum realm of infinite possibility. Now, people can laugh at that all they want to. Martin Luther King didn't laugh at it. Gandhi didn't laugh at it. You know, when you look at these religious and spiritual factors and the part that they played in these social justice movements, I want to be clear why it is that that recognition of a world beyond this one is so important. Number one, if you are grounded in any serious spiritual understanding, then you find that which is not love, that which is not just, that which is not good, that which is not deeply holy, intolerable. And you also, it gives you a sense that that which is better is always possible. It's always on the horizon. Because to the religious among us, it's the idea that goodness, truth, holiness, righteousness, harmony, peace is within us all. Now, some people see these things in terms of religion, some spirituality, a lot of this kind of thing is very secular. It doesn't matter what your context is for it. But it is the idea that there's some interchanges which are absolutely necessary in order to fuel the kind of political momentum that we need at this time. So, as Martin Luther King said, do not mistake our material passivity for weakness. He said we are spiritually active. And that's where I think a lot of people are right now. People are in shock about what's happening and processing. A lot of people say, oh, people are being apathetic. Nobody's being apathetic. Oh, I mean, some people are, obviously, but that's not what's happening inside American consciousness right now. People are taking in what's happening, processing what's happening. And I think the work we have to do within ourselves is every bit as important as the traditional political activism, particularly since the old boxes, the old techniques, so much has failed. Just let it go. New energies are seeking to emerge. There is no spot where love is not. Life is always renewing itself, no matter how bad things get. You know, it's like when you look at the yin and the yang symbol, how, in the middle of the black is the spot of white, within the middle of the white is a spot of black. And don't lose faith. Don't lose faith in the ever unfolding power of good. Whether you look at that as God, source, higher power, or just that deep spirit within the human being, whatever you name it, it is as real as anything happening on the outside. And that which is good and true and just and harmonious and peaceful is ultimately more powerful. It is more powerful than anything happening in this world. It is more powerful than fascism. It is more powerful than evil. But it's not coming at us from the outside, it's coming through us. And in order for us to be receptive to that force, by whatever name we call it, some call it the Holy Spirit, the Shekinah, whatever you call it, doesn't matter. The idea of something higher, something greater than we are, a power in us but not of us. So whatever your spiritual practice is or your religious practice, this is the time to do it. Whether it's yoga, whether it's secular and it's only reflection, whatever. And then also, like I said, I very much recommend reading Gandhi. I very much recommend reading Martin Luther King. I very much recommend reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. And also history. Read Harvey Kay, read Doris Kearns Goodwin, read about the founders, read about Lincoln, read about Roosevelt, read about the women's suffrage movement, read about early labor organizing. Keep your mind busy. This is really a moment to learn, to study. Don't let your mind get sucked away into the ultimately meaningless, and whatever you do, don't let your mind get sucked away into mean-spiritedness. We have a lot to argue against. We have definitely a lot to say, this is intolerable, this is our boundary, etc. But it doesn't have to include personal demonization of anyone. Miracles arise from love, and they occur naturally from love. But sometimes love says yes, and sometimes love says no. Love will only make us stronger. The Course in Miracles says love restores reason and not the other way around. I know we're all freaked out by what Musk is doing or what Trump is doing. Just wait and see what love will do. Okay? See you tomorrow, or whenever I see you.